Hi, year threes, good morning, and welcome to your next lesson in maths. This is Mrs. Raza's group, just to remind you, and well done to all those of you who are sending in all of your learning, whether it's maths, it's science, English. Um, just to let you know, the whole of year three, the year three team are really, really proud of you, and thank you for doing your learning and make sure you take those breaks and you follow your routine and enjoy the sun while you can. Okay, so let's get back to our next lesson. Um, I would like some feedback from those of you who did my previous lesson on how to read the analog time. Do let me know whether you found it hard, whether you found it easy, whether you had any questions. Make sure you send in those emails to the email address that is for the year threes. I will put that email address again at the end of this lesson as well. Okay, so for today's maths lesson, you will be doing the 12-hour clock. Okay, so get that pen and paper ready. Make sure you write your short date and your LI. And today's lesson is to read a 12-hour clock. I know we've talked about the 12-hour clock and the 24-hour clock, but we will be doing the 12-hour clock in more detail today. Okay, here are some of the words or the key vocabulary that we have been using for the past few days and last week with Miss Raza. I'm sure you've heard of these words, so you know what your hour is, your minute. So your just to recap, hour is the shortest hand on your clock, and you've got a 12-hour clock and you've got a 24-hour clock. Minutes are the minutes that will tell you which is basically your longer hand on your clock. And we'll be doing a lot more about minutes today as well, as do the 12-hour clock. In yesterday's lesson, we did half past, quarter to, quarter past, and o'clock. I really do hope you remember. If you still want to do a recap, make sure you go back to your previous lesson and have a look about half past, quarter to, quarter past, and o'clock. And we will be doing a little bit on AM and PM today. Okay, so let's move on. So like today, your lesson is on a 12-hour clock. We did talk about the 12-hour clock yesterday. So to make a whole day, these hands need to pass around the clock 2 times. So it needs to go from 12 to 12 2 times in the day to make it a whole day. Okay? So when we talk about a 12-hour clock, you must make sure that you either use the AM, which is for the morning, and PM, which is afternoon or evening. So your PM will be any time in the evening or in the afternoon when your time is after 12 o'clock. Okay? So if you have to say 1:30 or 1:30, it will be 1:30 p.m. Okay? Right. Let's move on to the next slide. You will find this a little simpler as we move on through the lesson, and it will be easier for you to understand. Okay? So this is just a picture of a clock for you, and I don't really have the hands on here so that I wanted it to be slightly easier for you to read. To even understand your 12-hour clock, you not only need to know the hours on the clock, which is up to 12, but you need to know the minutes as well. Now, if you have a look here, there's the word minutes on the inside, and it means that the minutes usually on every hour run in 5 minutes each. So if you can remember your 5 times tables, after 12 o'clock, when you move on from 1 o'clock, and if your minute hand lands on 1 o'clock, it will be 5 minutes. And then you count on every 5 minutes So you go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and 60. That means if your minute hand is on the 9 and your hour hand is on the 1, it will be 145. Because you talk about your hour first and then you talk about the minutes. So if your big hand was on the 10, it would be 50 minutes. Okay, again, it will be easily understood as we move on to the next slides. I know it's slightly harder here, so we'll move on. Before we can study the minutes or go on to the minutes, let me talk about the digital clock over here, which I talked about in your yesterday's lesson. Now, with your digital clock, there's always numbers on the clock. There's no hands on the clock. So you do not have your hour hand or your minute hand or your second hand. You have numbers on there. And for a 12-hour clock or a 12-hour digital clock, your numbers will go up to 12 on this side. So these numbers on this side will be your hours, and this side will be your minutes. These two dots over here is called a colon. Okay, so the digital clock, like over here, have an hour and a minute display. This side will be your hours, this side will be your minutes. And the hours and the minutes are separated by two dots called a colon. Okay, the hours are always on this side of the colon and the minutes on this side of the colon. Okay. Right, now that we talked about minutes earlier, so let me give you a couple of examples. Okay, let me bring my face slightly lower. There we go. Okay, so now you've got your minutes on the inside, and remember your long hand is your minute hand and your short hand is your hour hand. If you remember that digital clock, the hours are on this side and the minutes are on this side. So the hours are on this side and the minutes are on this side. So I gave you a little clue over here, which is H for hours and M for minutes. Okay, and like I said, each hour is represented in 5 minutes and it goes into your 5 times tables. So if you have a look over here, you'll write your hour first. So it is 2 hours and 25 minutes. 2 hours and 25 minutes. Now, that means your time on this clock is 2:25 p.m. I have put p.m. over there. That means it is 2:25 in the afternoon or evening, because p.m. stands for afternoon or evening. Okay, let's do one more over here. So your minute hand is on the 10 and your hour hand is on the 6. Now, if you have a look over here, we know that 9 is 45. So if you count another 5 times, this is 50 and 55. So the time, you do your hours first and then your minutes. So 6 hours and 50 minutes. And over there, I've written AM. That means the time is 6:50 AM. And AM means it's 6:50 in the morning. I'm going to say that again. This is your hour hand, your minute hand. Your hours come first, and then comes your minutes, which means it is 6:50 AM. And AM means it's 6:50 in the morning. I think I've got one more. There we go. So I've removed that clue of hours and minutes, but we know that hours come first and then come the minutes. So if your hour hand is on the 4, it is 4 hours, and your minute hand is on the 8. So if you count up in minutes, it is 40. So the time is 4:40 p.m. 4:40 p.m. And p.m. means that it is 4:40 in the afternoon or evening, because p.m. is always afternoon or in the evening. Okay? Now, over here, what you have to do is, this is home time. So we know that we finish school at 3:30. We finish school at 3:30. But what is the time on this clock? So now I've given you a clue over here and I've said that it's 3:30. So is it AM or PM? Is it AM or PM? Now we know that home time is always in the afternoon and it's after 12, so afternoon, so we know that this is 3:30 PM. Okay, next one. My alarm just went off to get ready for school. What is the time on this clock? So my alarm went off to wake up for school at hour hand first and then your minute hand at 6:15. But is it AM or PM? Now, I just said that my alarm went off in the morning, so I have to get ready to school. So we know that it is morning, which is AM. So it is 6:15 AM. Now have a look over here. You've got your minutes, which is your minute hand, and we know that from our previous slide over here, we know that 3 means 15 minutes, okay? Which is why it is 6:15. Okay, and your next one is, I suddenly woke up because I had a bad dream. What is the time represented by the clock? Now, I suddenly woke up before my alarm went off. I still woke up in the morning. So I woke up at 3:10, because if you count on from 5, and we know that we start from 5, we start at the 1, so 5, 10, 15, but we know it's 10. So our minute hand is on the 10 and our hour hand is 3. So it's 3:10 because hours come on this side of the colon and minutes on this side. But now we know that we woke up early in the morning because when we go to bed, we have a bad dream and I suddenly woke up. So I didn't wake up at 6:15 when my alarm rang. I woke up much before that. So that's why we say 3:10 a.m. Okay. Now, today I had a late lunch. Okay. So we know we have lunch in the afternoon. So we already know that it is PM. And the time over here is, if you count up, so your hour hand, we know that it is 1, so 1 hour. And how do we count our minutes? If you count on from 1, it goes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. 40 minutes on the minute hand, which is on the 8th, so it is 1:40 p.m. Okay. The weather outside was really sunny after I got home from school. So we decided to play outside. So we know that the school finishes at 3:30 and that is afternoon. And now we've got home and in the evening we decided to play outside. So we already know that that is PM. Okay. So we've got our time over here, but we have to make sure that we know our hour, which is 5. So 5 hours. And then let's count. So we go 5, 10. So, but that one says 10. So, but it has to be 5 because it's not 5:10. It is 5:05. Okay. Or we can say 5 past 5. Okay. So That's not correct. So what we can do is we can change that and we can say that it is 5, 5. Okay, so it's not 5:10, but if we count in fives right from 1, it is 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So it's 5. 5 hours and 5 hours and 5 minutes. Okay, so 5 p.m. Right, now a little task for you. I will do the first one and then I will go across, and what you need to do is you need to write the time based on the clock that I show you. So I'll do the first one for you. What time is it on that clock? Is it 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or 8 o'clock? We know that every time the minute hand is on the 12, it is always called o'clock, and the hour hand is on the 9, which is why I'm going to say that it is 9 o'clock. Okay, and then from here on, what you need to do is you need to pause the video at all of the slides that I will show you from now on and write the answers to the questions that pop up. Okay, so what time is it on this clock over here? You've got your hour hand on the 6 and you've got your minute hand on the 3. So make sure wherever you have your minute hand, you have to count on from 5, right from 1 in 5 minutes, or your 5 times tables. So let me give you a clue. 5, 10, 15. And you will only count this for your minutes hand because you're writing the minutes. You already know that your hour hand is on the 6. Okay, so what time is it? Is it 3:15 p.m., 6:15 p.m., or 6:30 p.m.? Pause the video and write your answer. And the next one, what time is it over here? Is it 2:50 a.m., 10:50 a.m., or 10:10 a.m.? And we know that a.m. is morning. Next one, is it 11:40 p.m.? Is it 11:20 p.m. or is it 8:50 p.m.? Next one, is it 1:05 p.m., 2:05 p.m. or 2:10 p.m.? Is this one 10:10 a.m., 2:40 a.m. or 1:45 a.m.? Next one, is this one 3:50 a.m., 3:35 a.m. or 7:15 a.m.? The next one, 12:10 p.m., 11:10 p.m. or 2:10 p.m. Your next one, 4:40 p.m., 8:15 p.m. or 8:20 p.m. And make sure you send in all your answers by emailing us on year3@grange.harrow.sch.uk. Okay, and even if you have any more questions based on these slides, or if you haven't followed something, do write back to us to the same email. Okay, and take care until tomorrow's maths lesson. Have a good evening. Bye.